This is the guide message of Pastor David. Today we study the book of Leviticus, chapter 13, titled as Characteristics of Spiritual Defiling Skin Diseases. Characteristics of Spiritual Defiling Skin Diseases. So the defiling skin diseases, they decay the body. And this is the symbol of the sin. So if someone gets the disease, then they feel no senses. If we are addicted to the taste of the sin, then our spirit will decay. This is how the Bible presents the disease, referring to our spiritual status. So in chapter 13, it's about how you get the diagnosis of your disease by the priest. And it continues in chapter 14, and it's about how to be purified from the disease. In both chapters 13 and 14, the word unclean is repeated 54 times. So today's guide message is rather pinpoint three characteristics of the spirit defiling skin diseases rather than dividing the chapter into paragraphs. So the first characteristic of the defiling disease is being deteriorated. Being deteriorated. If someone gets the defiling disease, then their skin and even their clothes, the color, their colors get changed. When you first believe in Jesus, you become humble, you pray, and you give thanksgiving to the Lord, and you pray, and the tears in your eyes. But as time goes by, your prayer gets less, your thanksgiving disappears, and you don't feel any grace at the cross, and you have the complaint and you blame your spiritual leaders. This is the symbol that you are being deteriorated spiritually. The second characteristic of the defiling disease is being contagious. Being contagious. The person who gets the defiling disease should be isolated. It's not to attack the right of the person, but rather it is to protect the community. This is the same when you get COVID, then you should be isolated because you don't contagion others. If you mingle with people who are negative and cynic, then you become like them because they contagion you. They contagion your perspective and thinking. You will find yourself being negative as you communicate more with people who are negative. The third characteristic of defiling diseases is being insensitive. Being insensitive. Even though your skin decays, you do not feel any pain. That's why you do not know you get the defiling disease. If the sin comes into your life, you do not recognize that this is sin, and you just keep living, and finally you end up with being dead. Verse 13, chapter 13, chapter 13, verse 13. The priest is to examine them, and if the disease has covered their whole body, he shall pronounce them clean. Since it has all turned white, they are clean. So it's strange that even though they get disease, but why does the priest pronounce they are clean? It's because it's okay if you know that you get the disease. But what's more dangerous is that you do not know that you get the disease. Even though your serious sin is revealed, exposed, you do not recognize it's your sin. You just keep living and blame others. So the serious problem is that you do not know about your uncleanness, your sins. Verse 45 to 46. Verse 45 to 46. Anyone with such a defiling disease must wear torn clothes. Let their hair be unkempt, cover the lower part of their face, and cry out, "Unclean, unclean." As long as they have the disease, they remain unclean. They must live alone. They must live outside the camp. So why the person should cry out, "Unclean, unclean"? It's because it should be revealed. And the purpose of doing this is to protect the community and the society. So being isolated is actually not enough. Verse 52, he must burn the fabric, the woven or knitted material of wool or linen, or any leather article that has been spoiled. Because the defiling mold is persistent, the article must be burned. So it should be burned. Everything, fabric, material, leather article, everything should be burned. This word burn, I would go to Revelation chapter 20, verse 14 to 15. Revelation chapter 20, verse 14 to 15. Then death and hate were thrown into the lake of fire. The lake of fire is the second death. Anyone whose name was not found written in the book of life was thrown into the lake of fire. And also Mark chapter 9 verse 43. Mark 9:43. If your hand causes you to stumble, cut it off. It's better for you to enter life maimed than with two hands to go into hell, where the fire never goes out. So the sin, the result of the sin is put in fire to death. So I'll now wrap up today's message. We take sins so lightly. However, if you recognize that you get the sin, you have the defiling disease, then you will be healed. You just go to the priest to be diagnosed. But the problem for us is that we deny to go to the priest to get the diagnosis. You say, "I do not have the sin, I haven't sinned." But the start of the life of faith is to recognize that I am a sinner, the confession that I have sinned. When your problem is revealed, then you go to your pastors, you go to the pastor in charge of your community to get the diagnosis. If you think you are deteriorated and insensitive, and if you think you have the problems in your life, just go to the priest and freely give yourself to be diagnosed. And I want to also focus on the importance of your language life. Pray that God circumcise your mouth and your language. And there shouldn't be any lies because for the sake of acknowledgement, especially for the leaders who has high who affect others so highly, greatly. If you are diagnosed that the disease is just the skin troubles, not the spiritual problem, then it's okay. Then you get the rest and then you get recovered. So my last sentence is that we should be equipped with a strong and clear spirit. We should be armed with a strong and clear spirit. Then we should purify ourselves before God and be clean and be used by God for His kingdom. God bless you, and this is the end of the guide message.